Rare Gem Productions proudly presents Entrepreneurially Thinking. Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, changing the way you view new ventures and activating your entrepreneurial mindset, empowering you to create new pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. I'm Christy Maxfield, and today we're mixing things up here on Entrepreneurially Thinking. So you all know that Cheryl is the STEM Inclusion Initiative lead for BioSTL and all their work related to that in the region. In addition to that, you've heard us talk about the fact that she's got a lot of other gigs going on, including a new business called Real Cannabis. You might remember that Derek Mays was on episode 10.5, and he is her business partner, and everything is kicked into high gear for them. And so today they're out in the field, and Bill Smith, otherwise known as Shu, our amazing sound producer who has been making sure that we sound like rock stars since day one, is joining me as my guest host.
I'm usually the guy behind the curtain of Oz.
You are behind the curtain of Oz.
I was saying that earlier.
Brought you out front, and now we're figuring this all out together. So Cheryl was like, go with God.
Yes.
I got to go do all this stuff to make a brand new business happen. And
hence the show, Entrepreneurially Thinking.
Hence the show, right? And we're all about stepping outside our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So for the first time in 3 years, Cheryl is not by my side. But Shu, again, as I said, has been there since day one. So I'm not alone in this journey. And we are really glad that you continue to join us. And we're also really thankful that our founding sponsor, CET and BioSTL, continue to support us in helping you explore the boundaries of your comfort zone and encouraging you in your entrepreneurial mindset. So continue to follow, listen, download, share, find us on Facebook, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Follow us with ETHINKSTL, eThink Podcast. Stay listening. Invite some friends to enjoy the show. It's really just our way of making sure that you're connected to the really great folks who are doing incredible things in our community. So what are we doing today, Bill?
We're faking it.
We're faking it? Shh. We've been doing that for 140 episodes.
Well, I'm going to do my best, Cheryl, as I possibly can.
Okay.
We're talking about sustainability. It's a multifaceted issue in which the food production system and our diets play a crucial role. Achieving a healthy and sustainable food future is an urgent matter that depends on global and local collaborative efforts.
It does.
It takes a village.
It does.
It does. And a big garden, apparently.
And, well, you know, and food. If the village has a table and the table's got some food, I'm in. Yeah.
Gotcha. So our guest today is helping our communities eat better, one squash pie at a time.
She makes amazing squash pie.
I'm ready to see what this is all about. Shannon Thompson grew up in a household where they ate really healthy. Not me. Lots of
you had a few processed
Sunny
food
D
here.
and Twinkies, but I won't say anything about them. I'm the international fat kid, so this is going to be good.
Oh, my goodness.
Her parents didn't buy sugared cereals, the junk food. They ate zucchini and squash and fresh spaghetti sauce. That lifestyle is amazing, and I wish I could go there. But that lifestyle, one dedicated to healthy living and sustainability, is what led Shannon to launch Eatery.
Yes.
With a menu such as compost nachos.
Yes.
Compost nachos, the name alone. Moonbeam caramelized milk toast. I used to love cinnamon toast crunch milk at the bottom of the cereal, so I'm excited about that. So all of this, if you're finding it's very fascinating, you're going to want to stay listening.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. We want you to know about all the great things they are up to, including the BioSTL STEM Entrepreneur Inclusion Initiative and Fundamentals Program for early stage would-be entrepreneurs in the life sciences in St. Louis. You can learn more about all of BioSTL's programs by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
Purpose First Advisors is proud to support the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. Purpose First works with entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them to accelerate business formation, scaling, and transformational growth. For more information about how to work with Purpose First Advisors on business model validation, financial modeling, core messaging, or other growth and profitability strategies, visit purposefirstadvisors.com.
My name is Shannon Thompson of Eatery /Indie4 Catering, and entrepreneurially thinking to me is manifesting my passion into reality.
Joining us today is Shannon Thompson, proprietor of Eatery and Indie4 Catering. I met Shannon in her element. catering.
Nice.
And got to sample things like compost nachos and these tacos that are to die for. And she even clips them together with those really tiny clothespin.
Oh, those like steel little clothespins?
Oh, the little wood ones. They're like little miniature wood, which I have decided is what they were made for, was to pin together her tacos.
There we go.
So Shannon, thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me.
I am just thrilled that you're here. So our listeners know Shannon hasn't always been in the food business, but you would never know that by eating her food. She actually had 12 years of life in the United States Air Force, a brief stint in the corporate world, and now with her husband has started Indie4 Catering and Indie Eatery. So tell us, first of all, I'm going to play the role of Cheryl.
Okay,
for a
go ahead.
Say,
Good.
Are you from St. Louis?
I am from St. Louis.
She always helps us get grounded in all that. So
She wants a little bit of background.
She wants a little bit of background, so I'm going to honor that tradition and ask about that. But the Air Force, did that take you all over the world?
It did.
Okay.
And it's actually where I kind of fell into choosing different foods. You would think that living in the Middle East that you probably would have something foreign in relation to what you used to eat in the States. But everything there was so fresh and so familiar in a sense. But I wondered why in the Middle East I could go to a McDonald's or a KFC and I can get fresh juices there. They didn't have anything as far as like concentrated juices. And so that was kind of, I guess, an eye-opener in a sense. It's like if they can do it in a Middle Eastern country, why aren't we doing this in the States?
Yeah.
So that just kind of intrigued me a lot.
So that healthy family background really did influence your ability then to travel the world and taste the world.
100%. And it was foreign to me living in the household, eating that way. Like it was a total juxtaposition of like the neighborhood that I grew up in. So I didn't realize that those were like healthy things. I thought that was just like a normal.
Everybody has kale.
Everybody has kale. Everybody's
And then
growing.
You realize that not everybody had kale, and they thought that was the
case.
thing that you just put in the meat case to highlight the,
That's it.
the
like
lamb chops, right?
For aesthetics.
Right.
Yeah.
I've
It
had
was
more,
the parsley on the dish of life.
I've had more people. I've had more people say to me, like, I only knew kale as a decorative item.
Garnish. It's a garnish.
When did we start to eat kale?
It's a superfood.
It's a superfood. It's great. So you traveled the world and came back to St. Louis. Is your husband from St. Louis as well?
He is as well, born and raised. We actually lived right up the street from each other unknowingly.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like
So wait, it took the Air Force to meet someone that was up the street?
Kind of. I was in the Air Force when I met him.
But he was not.
He was not at the time. I met him in the Loop.
Okay.
And it was a funny kind of.
She was probably in uniform.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't in uniform. I wasn't. Yeah, but it was kind of sweet.
But those of you outside of St. Louis, the Loop is an area in St. Louis that has like a lot of history and things of that nature.
Also, some great clubs and great places to eat.
It makes sense why you were there.
Yeah,
hanging out.
Yeah. And so we connected, and literally we were married about 6 months to the day that we met. And I deployed 2 weeks after we got married, and I was gone for about 6 months. Made it back to the States, and he was like, next time I think that I should go with you. So he decided to join the Air Force. Yeah. He's he used to
that's love.
Yeah, it is
that's
love.
Like love.
Yeah, that's
because I don't think I'd do that. I think I'd be like, honey, I really missed you.
I know. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. I don't think I'd be enlisted.
Yeah, he enlisted. He used to counsel juveniles for the state of Missouri for 10 years. And after I came back from living overseas, he was like, I think we should do this together.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're doing Indie together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, because like I said, I went to an event one day. You were the caterer. I fell in love with your little tacos with your little clothespin on them. The rest is history for me. But like, what does Indie4 mean? What is like, what, tell us.
Yeah. So Indie4, it's kind of a short play on just independent. Okay. One of a kind. We feel like we stand in the gap of a lot of different places where we offer you something delicious to eat, but not necessarily sacrifice in taste. So that was the whole concept really behind Indie Eatery, to show people that they can eat well without having to eat something that tastes awful or dry.
Or throw off their palate at all.
There you go.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was at an event with Antoinette Carroll, who's also been on the podcast, and she shared that corn was not her favorite thing. And we all convinced her, because Shannon convinced us. She's like, just try my corn. Just try my corn. Yeah. And after that, Antoinette was like, that's not corn. She's like,
I remember that.
Right? Like, and so it was really that, like, the thing you think you don't like, you probably do, but also you don't have to sacrifice taste for health.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
So how long have you been doing it?
So we started the catering side of things in 2016 in the summer, and then we branched off with the storefront just last year. We opened up September 20th of last year. So we're coming up on our 1 year.
That's a huge milestone because I know a lot of folks.
Especially the food.
Right. The brick and mortar leap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of overhead. That's a lot of fixed costs. Those are the kinds of things that make my heart, and I'm not even the one with the lease, but that's the one that makes my heart palpitate a little bit because I'm like, oh crap! Now she got a rent payment and a lease thing and a this and a that.
Trust me, I've lost sleep plenty of nights before even.
And I didn't call her. I didn't call her and give her all my anxieties.
But
Attack of the killer tomatoes.
It can play you. It can play tricks on you big time. But I think that we went into it in a smart way. So we literally were just going to use the space as a commercial kitchen. It's only about 624 square feet. Really cute, boutique-y space.
Nice.
And it's in a storefront, like or a strip mall.
In like the St. Peter's area?
In the St. Peter's location.
Okay,
right
so that's
off
west of
Mexico
St.
Road.
Louis for all our listeners.
And so there's a guitar school, a hair salon that's in the same complex as us. And we thought that we always wanted to do like a brunch. Like that's our thing. We love to brunch. And so we figured about 70% of people go out on the weekends for brunch. So let's open up on the weekends and let's focus primarily on catering throughout the week because we were doing a lot of corporate type jobs, a lot of nonprofit stuff. So it just made sense to let's try to take advantage of some of the built-in traffic over the weekend and then focus on catering since that's the bread and butter really because you don't want to have to depend on foot traffic to necessarily sustain your business.
Okay.
So we thought that we couldn't really lose that way.
And so this really, it sounds like, was a way to solve the commercial kitchen problem, which we know there's just not enough commercial kitchens to go around in St. Louis, at least from a shared space perspective.
100%. Right? And especially when you're thinking about cost. Like it's expensive.
It is expensive. Yeah. And you need that dedicated space in order to be able to do your thing. And so we even find that a lot of the catering businesses, like, it's great that it's available from 4 to 11, but I really need it at different times. And I need to be able to prep, and I need to be able to stage things to be able to take them out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So in solving this really practical problem for the built-in audience of the catering business, you're also then able to take a really strategic look at what is this location and the foot traffic give us like an extra revenue source.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yep.
Cool. So how has the brunch been?
It's been great. It was slow to start. We opened up, like I said, in September. So it wasn't necessarily the best weather because it was kind of chilly out. We had a lot of dark, dusky days. We were still trying to figure it out.
We can't name the weather anymore. I mean, like St. Louis always has unpredictable, but lately,
I know.
I mean, 112 degrees last week
Insane.
and 80 this, and
we saw the windows opens last night.
Yeah, and our listeners will be listening to this, and it could be anywhere between 112 and 40 degrees, depending on what day it is in St. Louis. But
it was.
But despite all that, you got off to the typical like people had to find us, people had to know we were there, and they found you.
They found us. Thank God, because it was scary, you know, and it was really scary. And we actually were open originally on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and realized quickly after maybe 2 months that people just weren't checking for us on a Friday, right? You know, and it's not necessarily like a walkability neighborhood per se, but Mexico Road is a main street.
Yeah.
And the plaza, the way it's facing doesn't necessarily give us the benefit of the doubt either. It's kind of it's not parallel to the road. You see the side.
So if people have to be coming to you 100%. Versus like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So people had to literally search for us or have been a catering customer and had intentions on coming to visit us. So but it started off slow, but it picked up, and I am forever grateful at the amount of support that people on the catering side of things have been giving us, and just newbies, organic people are just searching good, healthy food.
So you're now doing brunch on Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
And you do it till you sell out?
I do it till I sell out.
And you always sell out?
And we've been good. I want to keep putting in the universe that we always sell out.
I'm putting it out there as a known fact.
And
she always sells out.
Yeah, it's a great sustainability method too. You know, it works well for us because you can't really carry things over from the weekend to the week. Right. You know, so it's perfect.
So you've mentioned sustainability as a business to sustain, but also sustainability is part of your menu. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So we just kind of wanted to do something cute and fun and quirky and something that people could relate to. So our menu is kind of comprised of not necessarily just eco-friendly terms, but terms that have to do with the environment. So we kind of have a whole menu breakdown of different drinks and smoothies and food that correlate with eco-friendly terminology.
So is that where compost nachos come from?
Absolutely. Just a whole lot of stuff, but good stuff in one dish.
I want to find out about those, but I want to find out exactly what does Indie 4 mean?
So Indie 4 or Indie Eatery is kind of independent, one of a kind. We stand in the gap. We're a little bit different. So we're kind of like the alternative.
Yeah.
You know, we're not mainstream. We're a small-owned, independent, veteran-led organization. So for you, for me, for everybody?
That's
for
what
everyone.
I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the number 4 meant like
it's
family members or family or any of that kind of stuff.
It's
so
significant in that way. So thanks for pulling that out.
We figured it had to be, right? Because, every part of our businesses means something to us, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of name. So for you, for me, but also tying in the sustainability, how are you sourcing your food?
So that's the tricky thing.
Okay.
Because we are so small, there was not a lot of places that were willing to wholesale stuff to us unless we were buying like 1,000 pounds of something.
Wow.
So I literally, a lot of the things I grow produce wise.
Wow.
And then as far as anything else, we have to use like local stores. So I'm a big time loyalty type shopper at Trader Joe's, Fresh Time. I just try my best to kind of pick and choose based on price, but also quality.
Right.
So yeah, it's unfortunate that, we can't find people who are willing to kind of sell wholesale stuff to us.
So are you growing or are you just buying or any of that stuff? Because I'm wondering if there's any of those family things that you grew up with that you're incorporating into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So the produce, like red peppers, lunchbox peppers, sometimes kale, all of the different herbs that we use. So whether that's some cilantro, dill, we do like a cold fusion water at the space that's free for everyone that has a health component to it. So all the medicinal herbs I grow. I have like a whole edible landscape at my home.
What is cold fusion water?
So it's...
I need to know what that is.
It's almost like a herbal cold infusion.
Okay.
So it starts with water, of course, and then we do some edible type flowers in it that has a medicinal property to it. So whether it's to help with inflammation, to give you a little bit of an immune system booster, like anything with lemon, and it will do spearmint. So yeah, it just kind of depends on how I feel that weekend.
Very cool.
Based on what I'll put in the water.
So growing and locally sourcing.
I'm thinking, how soon is lunch?
How soon is lunch? And can we get some of that infused stuff?
Absolutely.
I feel like I'll walk in and be like, can I have that nuclear fusion stuff? I don't know what she was saying, but it's fused and I need some.
It's fused with something.
It's fused and I need some. She's got it on the list. So have you guys been doing this full time since 2016?
So no, actually, it kind of came out of necessity. So I was working at a company called Beleaf, which was one of the only medical marijuana companies here in Missouri. And unfortunately, our patient base didn't sustain the business in totality. So I was laid off.
Okay.
And I was still kind of working.
Because this is really early. This is before the law changed.
Yeah. And they specifically treated patients who had intractable epilepsy.
So one very specific ailment.
Okay. And my boss is amazing. And so it came to a point to where I was laid off and had already started dibbling and dabbling in the catering thing, using a shared kitchen. And so when I was laid off, I had to figure it out. So it was entrepreneurship in a sense by accident. Like that was always my intention.
Right.
But I was really thrust into it after I lost my job.
Okay.
So yeah.
And when your husband, when did he go full time with you?
So he's not full time.
He
works,
isn't. All right.
No, but you would think because he works a lot with his own company and also with Indie Eatery, Indie 4. Yeah, he's there every weekend.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about that too, like how you make the leap, how you do the transition. And sometimes you have the luxury of like planning and staging. And sometimes you have the serendipity of, well, I don't have a job and this was already in the works. And now I'm going to transition into doing it.
I got to go for it.
And the spouse or partner piece is always an interesting dynamic.
And it's a little bit of what we always talk about, either being an entrepreneur in place or while you're in a position and then you started working in this thing, still having a significant other with good medical health care.
We got to love those spouses with health care.
Yeah, he hit the nail on the head. That was important, like it was important for him to keep his full-time corporate role, but he is just as committed and involved in Indie Eatery /Indie 4. So it works out. We're tired, but we make it work. I was just saying this past weekend was my first weekend off in a year and a half. Like I've worked literally 7 days a week for the past year and a half, but this weekend I literally kind of slept my life away.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You earned every bit of that.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to learn more about your journey and talk more about food.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know about all the great resources they provide, including the Square One Ignite and Bootcamp programs, as well as the online startup toolkit. The toolkit has videos, articles, and other materials to help you build your business. For more information about CET's programs, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continued support, CET, we say thank you.
Hi, I'm Galen Gandolfi. I'm with Justine Peterson here in St. Louis. And when I think about entrepreneurial thinking, I think about everything entrepreneurial. And that is, everything in life can possibly be viewed through the lens of an entrepreneur. And if you apply many business fundamentals to anything that you do in life, and if you do it well, you could have amazingly productive results.
Shannon, you mentioned, or I mentioned, or we both mentioned that you were in the Air Force, you and your husband. I do a lot of work with the Veterans Business Resource Center, Darcella Craven and her team. And one of the ways that I know we look to support our service members and their families is by offering the opportunity of entrepreneurship as a post-service way of making a living.
Yeah.
Get back acclimated back into society.
Well, we have a lot of great companies that hire our veterans and make it a priority to hire veterans. We also have a lot of veterans who have transferable skills and don't necessarily want to go into corporate America.
Right.
From your experience, was getting ready to be an entrepreneur part of your exit strategy when you were leaving, or has there been a support structure there for you as a veteran?
Yeah, so yes and no. It was a part of my exit strategy, for sure. Literally, my last 3 years in, I spent in the Middle East intentionally to make money, to save money, to come back and open up a restaurant.
Okay.
But that was in 2014.
Okay.
And so we were kind of at the worst economic downturn at that point.
Right.
So coming home with this money saved, ready to do what we knew was going to happen, it didn't work that way because it took forever for us to find civilian roles.
Okay.
Which we didn't think was going to be an issue for us. You hear you're in the military, once you come home, jobs are just going to fall at your feet, but that wasn't the case.
Okay.
And so a lot of the money that we saved, we literally had to spend just to live.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the nest egg dwindled quickly when there's no money coming in, but everything is going out.
Understood.
Yeah. And so support-wise, there wasn't really that we were aware of.
Right.
It probably was there, but when you're kind of thinking on your feet quickly, you just kind of do what's second nature.
Right.
But it was a part of the exit strategy, but it just didn't happen when we thought it would happen in 2014.
Okay.
So we had to kind of go back to the normal, find a gig, which we found something that was significant enough to keep us afloat.
And offset stuff, yeah.
And offset stuff. And we just had to work it until we were in a position to where we could actually follow our dream and make the leap. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about, and Shu, about how you've prepared to be a cook, a chef.
I still also want to find out about compost nachos. I'm sitting there thinking about that too. So we'll go on to all
just
that.
think about all the goodness that could be in a nacho.
I'll tell you about it, Shu. I got you.
Cool.
I got you.
I grew up in El Paso, Texas, on the border, so nachos and food and yes. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So about being a cook. So when I joined the Air Force, my job was literally services.
Okay.
Which encompassed cooking. So that's where I initially got the actual technical training, right? But aside from that, once I got married, I thought to myself that it probably would be a good idea to really, really learn how to cook, for my husband. Mm-hmm. Thought that was just something that probably wasn't
sweet
important.
Of you, because I did not prioritize that when I got married. I was like, look, you're a grown man and you know how to cook some things.
It says here on the box as I buy it, hungry man. There you go.
And I was like, wow, you've lived over 30 years without me cooking for you. I think you're going to keep going, right?
No, for sure. That was half of it, right? But I was like, I kind of want to do my own thing. And so
that's awesome. I mean, seriously. I mean, especially if it gives you pleasure, right?
It did, because my father's a great home cook. My mom is a great home cook. My husband's parents, the same thing. And so I started out just really printing recipes offline, and I just started cooking to a T, based off of this recipe. And then I figured out I can just kind of figure this out on my own.
You got your rhythm.
I got my rhythm. I knew what to do, a little of this, a little of that, and it just kind of went further.
And you had a sophisticated palate by then, right?
I did.
You had grown up with all sorts of flavors and textures, and then the Middle East and
100%.
all these other places.
Yeah, so that really came into play. That helped a lot.
That's fantastic.
Did you incorporate any of that stuff from the Middle East and some of these recipes and things and flavors and spices? And
100%. So one of the main dishes at our restaurant is our waffle. Okay. And it's like a Brussels waffle. So if you've ever been to Brussels or Amsterdam or anything like that, they have this kind of like cakey, airy, delicious piece of dough.
You should look at this expression on her face, which is just like, you know, when you scrunch up your face and you think of your favorite meal and then your hands start moving and that, oh my goodness, I can just feel how good it is.
And as you're imagining that, listening to my stomach gurgle,
yes,
go ahead.
That is exactly, that is what you should be feeling as she's saying that.
Good.
You should. But it was just this piece of goodness that I'd never really experienced in the States. So I wanted to bring that back. So we sat and we perfected our recipe. Also in the Middle East, there's this really common drink called lemon with mint. Simple, right? Super refreshing. We grow so much mint, so it also just made a lot of sense. But it's everywhere in the Middle East, and we brought that home to our menu as well. But everything else that's on our menu is literally just recipes that we've been cooking for the past 10 or 11 years. So literally everything that transferred over to the restaurant are just home-cooked items. Yep.
Sounds very satisfying.
Yeah.
So let's satisfy your curiosity.
I am. Yes, I'm curious.
What is on a compost
Tell
nacho?
me about it.
Compost nachos. Okay, so they start with the base of a sweet potato tortilla chip,
Okay.
a spicy white queso, roasted kale, roasted corn, and sweet red peppers. And it is...
To die for, it sounds
Oh my
like.
God.
Listen.
You had me at sweet potato chip.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
so good.
And then queso?
Yes, a spicy white queso that we do.
Spicy white queso.
Yeah, spicy white. It's
Not
just
just
a
queso,
nice little
spicy white queso.
Yeah,
Little
a
bite
nice
to it?
little bite to it.
That sounds like a name for something. Here, little spicy white queso. You're just so adorable. That's my next dog. Spicy white queso. And you have to always say the full name. The whole thing. The whole thing. Oh.
Yeah, it's one
And what's
of our
nice
most,
about that also is you're not masking it or hiding it. You're getting good nutrition and
Absolutely.
flavorful food, it sounds like.
Absolutely. It's organic kale, it's organic corn, it's organic tortilla chips. They're also gluten-free for the folks that have gluten intolerances. So I try to be really thoughtful and intentional about what we put on the menu because it's important, you know? So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So we talked a little bit about the challenges of sustaining a storefront, the method of really building different business lines, sourcing food, right?
Yes.
Getting to the point where you're big enough to start wholesaling.
Yes.
What are some of the other challenges that you've encountered becoming an entrepreneur, understanding yourself as a business owner, living into this role in your life?
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, mentorship in a sense. It's been... I don't want to say difficult per se, but you kind of just get caught up in trying to make things work.
Sure.
And you don't really set aside time to get outside of yourself in a sense. And so I guess I can't say that the problem is necessarily finding mentorship. It could be me taking the time to search for someone that I would fit with.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of people who have way more knowledge than me in this restaurant industry who I've been leaning on lately. But I think the main difficult or hindrance was asking people for help.
Yeah.
You know, leaning on other people.
Out of a pride thing or out of a knowledge thing?
Not
or
out of
little
a pride thing necessarily, but I was so used to being in the military and being like in a one deep slot, and I did everything.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you didn't have a choice.
Sure.
And so I just felt like I could do everything, and I didn't have to be like a burden to someone else by asking them for help. Or like if I didn't have enough people to rock out with me at a catering gig, I would figure out a different way,
Right.
you know, instead of like saying,
You'd grow
hey,
another arm before you'd ask for
absolutely,
help.
I would. So I think that's one of the things that kind of got in my way initially when it came to even picking up more jobs, you know, instead
Yeah.
of reaching out to ask people, hey, are you available for this day?
Right.
Because I have another job. I wouldn't take the job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were too busy in the business to realize outside of the business
100%.
Yeah.
So that can kind of hinder your growth.
Sure.
Did you have
Yeah.
to push through anything else in particular, though, to be able to ask for help?
Just realizing that I'm not Superwoman and that I was wearing myself out and I hadn't even had the storefront for a year at that time. You know, catering was kind of different in a sense. Like you do your prep work in advance, you get everything done, you drop off. Like
Right.
drop offs were great. But when it came to having to staff the
Right.
event, it's like,
Oof.
yeah, what are you thinking, Shannon? Like reach out. There are people who would want to help you.
Sure.
So yeah, just getting outside of myself, I think was the main thing. I've sought mentorship now at this point. So I'm really looking forward to kind of going back and forth and just getting with someone who's kind of out of my league, because I don't know everything. And I'm very mutable. Like, I adapt easily. I take direction easy. So if you're telling me something and I think it's 100%, and that's important.
That's huge.
That is, yes.
We've talked about coachability on a number of occasions.
You can't think that you know everything.
And you also have to have enough confidence and know yourself well enough to know, hey, that's an interesting piece of information, but that's actually not right for me.
100%.
It might be right for somebody else, but it's not right for me, which doesn't mean that you're not coachable. It just means that you're using all the data that's coming in and making an informed decision.
Oh,
right?
what works for you.
Right. But that coachability, the willingness not only to hear, but then to analyze and incorporate where it makes sense for you.
Yes.
That's huge.
That means, that's the difference in everything.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Awesome. And business goals, what are you hoping the next year looks like? Because, asking you 3 or 5 years is ridiculous. But
Man, I'm a big dreamer when it comes to that.
Please share.
But so I dream big, but I also want to be logical in the way that I move. I want to grow my business laterally, for sure.
What does that look like for you?
That means kind of an extension of Indie Eatery in a sense. Instead of another location per se, just adding another form or method to get my food out to other people. Okay. So whether that's like a little frolic camper, which I think is really cute, but it's not necessarily adding more overhead of another space.
Or something like a food truck Fridays or something in the park?
Kind of, sort of. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But not necessarily like a decked out, hooked up type of
food truck. Gotcha.
But just where I can do the things or some of the things that we do at the space, but we can travel with it. I think sometimes, and I'm probably afraid of going too big, too fast.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of makes me pull back a lot of the times, because I don't want to overwhelm myself.
Right.
But I don't want to stay in this comfort zone either.
Well, and getting to the point where you're more comfortable asking for help means you're minimizing the risk that you're going to get overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you try to do it all yourself, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
Overwhelmed, drown, shut you down.
Yep.
Take to your bed because it's all too much, right?
It is. But that's why partnership.
If you build a team, partnership is pretty much the big dream that I have with this. I really see us, Indie Eatery / Indie 4, as being franchisable. So I'm working diligently, and I'm kind of being really intentional about how I make those next few moves. But partnerships, that's really important. Collaborations, that's what I'm focusing on next year.
And part of that lateral move also is showing people how they can have this great tasting food and live healthier lives.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I think younger people are realizing, I want to be a bit more healthier because I'd rather spend time living rather than dying slowly.
Absolutely.
And having really good food.
Important. Yeah. We're such a great group of like progressive thinkers now. People are really like focused on caloric intake, but also eating something really good. And it's about well-being too. It's not just, hanging out with your friends anymore. You kind of put intention and thought behind the things that you're going to consume. So,
So intentionally scaling, looking at that franchise, looking at those collaborations, that's really exciting. So in terms of, if somebody was looking, well, not only to eat your food, because y'all need to eat her food.
Yes, please.
Compost nachos.
Compost nachos come to my belly. If you were looking to connect with folks right now, what would be the most valuable connections that would make your dream start to come together?
Where are the dream makers? Gosh, no, for real. Like, we're like angel investors.
Okay.
Honestly.
Gotcha.
I mean, if people don't know that are thinking about getting into entrepreneurial anything, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and you're in a highly perishable industry.
100%.
You can't save those peppers for another 6 months just because people slowed down in their ordering.
No, and that's going to happen, and that happens, and so you have to be able to still function outside of that and make it work. And a lot of the times, that means pulling from a pot of money that wasn't necessarily set aside for the restaurant.
Right.
So, we started this thing with our hard-earned cash. Like, we don't have any loans from anywhere. Everything in the space we own, we 300%. Let me just say
At
that.
least 200.
She's weaving bootstraps as we speak.
I'm still weaving bootstraps. So, no, seriously, like if there's just a angel investor or someone who's looking to be a part of something great.
And scalable, because you've got the franchise mindset, right?
100%.
Like they're a replica that when I hear franchise, I hear replicable, right? 100%. I hear brand equity that I can transfer. Yes. I hear, an image and a philosophy and an economy of scale that could take something that works really well in a local level and then just keep making it happen in other places.
And having things even as small as a brunch or like, I don't know, meal prep or any of that kind of stuff and just showing that and sharing that amongst the community is awesome.
Yep. Sure. Are there any communities in particular that you'd like to see a future franchise of Indie Eatery show up in?
Man, it's so funny because every weekend people walk in and say, "Oh, you look like you were plucked out of Tower Grove," or "You look like you belong in the Central West End." Like, if I had $1
for every eclectic neighborhood you should be in,
every eclectic neighborhood I should be in, except for St. Peter's. But it's like we need healthy food out here too.
Sure.
And so it's funny, but I would like to kind of get.
So it's those pioneer neighborhoods, right? Wherever they don't think you should be is where you want to be.
Yeah. Okay. And but it's weird because we never intended to have like anything in the burbs. Let me just, no, I'm serious. Let me just say that.
I'm not a burbs girl either, which is why I'm like, I love y'all, but I'm not getting to brunch out in St. Peter.
You have to.
I will have to plan because I'm like,
But once you make the drive, you'll be like, this was only 30 minutes. I promise. Yeah, I promise. No,
For you, I will do it. But I'm just saying, I was like, good luck to her out there. That's great.
St. Peter's folks are healthy and conscious, so they make their way out. And we do have a lot of people that live in the city that commute to us because it's kind of like a destination.
It is a destination for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not going to St. Peter's for many things other than you. I'm just saying. I mean, there might be some wonderful things. I just haven't found them yet.
I'm going to send you a list.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
So how do people find where you were at, or we're on the socials, or on the Googles to use that word?
On the socials and on the Googles, we are everywhere. We're on Instagram as indie.eatery, Facebook as Indie Eatery. Obviously, you can Google Indie 4 or Indie Eatery, and we'll pop right on up.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're located at 7827 Mexico Road in St. Peters, Missouri.
Fantastic. Well, if you've got a catering gig you need taken care of, whether that's corporate, nonprofit, personal, professional, these are your folks.
Yes,
I've had more amazing, just eclectic and refreshing catering experiences with you all, and just the presentation is... If I wasn't such a white woman, I'd say dope. So I'm going to say dope, right? Like Darren Jackson popped into my head, and I was like, Darren would say dope right now, so I'm going to do it. No, I mean, the presentation just is so much a part of it, as well as the food and the flavors.
That means everything.
And seriously, like, I'll get my butt out to St. Peter's, so you get your butt out to St. Peter's and enjoy.
Flavor doesn't know a color, so you can say dope.
Okay, good. If it was going to be on anything, it would be food, because that's my wheelhouse. But on that note, I want to thank you for taking just a little bit of time out of the hustle, which is so very real. And I know this is like your only downtime that you've scheduled for yourself. So the fact that you made some time for us during your downtime means a lot to us. So
I'm grateful that you considered me.
And thank you for letting your first podcast experience be with us. This is our first time. Awesome.
Yes. I'm excited. This was great.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Changing the way you view new ventures, unlocking your creativity and innovation, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit entrepreneuriallythinking.com to listen to all your favorite episodes and learn more about our guests, hosts, and sponsors. Feeling inspired? Be sure to share your thoughts, questions, and stories in the comments section. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. The best way to show love is to share and subscribe. Let everybody know that you're entrepreneurially thinking.